Seen a comment on a video asking best method in order to win all 4 quarters of a quick game and thought, well, we've never done a video on that, so that's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to give you a couple different methods for easiest way to win all 4 quarters of all your quick games. Now, being that this is a requirement for team spirit every single week to win 25 games in which you win all 4 quarters, we also have a lot of quests, especially the Hall of Fame quest, the previous Hall of Fame quest 1, I'm assuming Hall of Fame quest 2, and other quests require you to win all 4 quarters of quick games. Now, obviously, this can be very time consuming, especially if you don't have the best method. Well, stay tuned. I'm going to give you how to do this. Now, if you have a different method, please let me know in the comments, share with everybody else. This isn't going to apply to every single person, and these techniques are going to have varying results just depending on your deck and how new you start NBA SuperCard. Because if you really don't have the cards, it's kind of difficult to do this the most efficient. So let's start with the first method, and probably the method that a lot of people use the most. If you look at my 3 opponents right here, we have Airwave, Airwave, and Galactic. My deck is Galactic Plus. Now I can play the Airwave and probably win. I could play the Galactic and might win, but it's not necessarily guaranteed. And being that we have so many of these quick games to do, you certainly want it to be guaranteed. So the first method you're going to do is go to your deck editor and switch out all of your cards, all 6 of your quick game cards to bronze. So now we switched out all 6 cards to bronze. Now you could probably use golds as well. There's a lot of people that use golds instead of bronze in different game modes. I personally use bronze. I don't use golds in other game modes. But after we switched it out, you'll see that it dropped all of the decks to gold. Once we back out all the way, we got all of these opponents to gold. We're going to go back into deck editor, and then we're going to go to autofill, and then we're going to hit yes. And then we back out to our 3 opponents, and all 3 opponents are going to stay gold. So now, just like we do with every single quick game, we're just going to go through all 4 quarters, and their decks, at least for the first game, is going to be really low, and then it's going to progressively increase. Now, when you do this method, most of the time, typically, just depending on what cards you have, but typically most of the time you're going to be able to do 3 games and only 3 games before the deck goes back up to whatever your autofill deck is going to be. So if you're, say, I don't know, perimeter tier for your quick game deck, if that's the best deck you got, doesn't matter what tier it is. It could be all the way to Galactic tier where I am, or it could be perimeter tier kind of in the middle. Then it's only going to take 3 games before you have to reset this and do it again. So now at the end of our first game, remember our first game, all our opponents were gold, and now they are all street tier. And once we complete this game, then it's going to go up to 1 or 2 tiers below whatever your top deck is. Now, these 3 tiers are not going to be the ones that you'll face if you're, say, perimeter, but it's going to be 3 games regardless that it is going to increase up until you'll have to switch them out, go back into edit deck, and then put in all bronze, and then back out, and then autofill again. Now, the next method we're going to talk about is one in which you don't need to switch out the quick game deck, but it doesn't let you win 100% of the time, guaranteed, just depending on what players they call for in the quarters. And this is the deck that I use a lot of times in which I'm training cards. And so, for example, I'm training this James Wiseman right here. I have all 5 out of the 6 cards, all Airwave singles leveled up. Nothing any higher, nothing any lower. If you do this method, it's best if you do all 5 of the cards, 5 out of the 6 cards, 1 single tier, and the other one a bronze. Now, the idea behind this deck is since the quick game averages out your total stats, and that's the deck that they use, well, what's going to happen is 5 out of your 6 cards are always going to be better than all of their cards. And you're going to have that 1 bronze that is obviously going to lose if you call for that 4th NBA player, but every other time you're guaranteed to win. And so this particular deck is downtown, and so all of the opponents that I face are always going to be downtown. But my singles, my airwave leveled up singles, are always going to be higher than their cards because that bronze brought down the average. So in this particular case, all of their cards are going to be about 36,000 or so that are downtown tier. Now this is going to make it where you guarantee yourself wins every single time as long as you don't get that fourth NBA player called. And so it does happen, obviously, where you use all four of your NBAs, but this requires you not to switch out any of your cards, and you can just go through quick game over and over and over again and do it fast without having to switch out the cards. And like I said, you do lose a couple, but at least for me, I'm training at the same time and doing my quick game. And most of the time, just like right there, you didn't get our fourth NBA called, and so we're guaranteeing ourselves a win. And this is probably the formation that I use most of the time because I kind of look at it like, well, the amount of time that I spent switching out the cards and stuff kind of account for the 1 or 2 losses every once in a while that I lose. And it's just much quicker to just, push on the button really fast and then jump into another game and do that over and over. And you can get an entire game done before you can switch out the players. And so it's okay for me if I lose a couple. And then the final method we're going to talk about is going to be kind of like a hybrid between the first and the second one. And so what you're going to want to do is that you're going to want to put in bronzes again, lower the opponent deck all the way down to gold. And when you go back to change out your deck, instead of auto-filling it, what you're going to want to do is put in all of the same tiered cards. Now, much lower than whatever your top tier is. And so if your top tier stats are somewhere around 8,000 or 9,000 or 7,000, put them somewhere in between there, but more towards the bottom end. And what I like to do is just do it around 2,000. Now, I am Galactic Plus, which is way up there, 14,000 type of stats. And so this works absolutely fantastic for me. And so I have a bunch of airwave singles, and these are all airwave singles, untrained, unleveled, everything, but make sure they're all the same tier. And so what you're going to do with this one is that you're going to play all 3 games, just like you normally would with the first one. You go into your quick game, you're going to put in all of the same tier cards, and you're going to play 3 games. Now, just like you did with the very first one, when you play in 3 games in your quick game, when you autofilled to your best deck, when you played 3 games, then you're going to have to reset the deck again and start all over and change out all the cards and do all of that stuff. And that's kind of what we're doing here. But the idea behind it is that even though we have all of our cards in our quick game, just airwave singles, it's still going to take 3 games in order for the decks, the quick game opponent decks, to reach that tier. And so we're still going to be playing our 3 games. So we put in our airwave, we play our 3 games in quick game, get our 3 wins. And then once we got our 3 wins and the opponent decks are about the same level as what this deck is right here, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to click autofill, and then I'm going to fill in my best cards. And then I'm going to go back and I can play 3 more games. So doing this method, you can kind of do 6 games in a row without having to refill the deck and start it all over at bronze. But the only drawback, like I said, is it's not as simple as just clicking autofill. You have to search your deck and put in 6 cards that are exactly the same. That way that, in which it's kind of in the middle, and then you can play your 3 games and then autofill and then play 3 more after that. But those are 3 different methods in order for you to play quick game, win all 4 quarters, and get that team spirit quest done, or get the regular Hall of Fame quest done, or whatever quests that require you to win all 4 quarters of your quick game. That is 3 different ways in order for you to do it. And like I said, I typically do the second method more. the ones with the one single bronze and then just play quick game over and over and over again. Because like I said, I'm training cards at the same time, and I don't mind if I lose one or two along the way, and I don't ever have to switch out my deck ever. And so if I'm not training cards to do anything, then I'll either do the first method or the third method, just depending on what I feel like. But either way, just depending on what cards you have and what tier you are, some of these methods are going to be a little bit more effective than the others. If you are brand new, I would just stick with the first one and then just do the first one and do that over and over until you get some other cards. But either way, hopefully you found this video helpful, and hit that thumbs up if you did, and I will see y'all in the next video. Yo, we're out. Peace.